During the illegal action, right, this trailer burned down, and one of my cousins were staying in it, right, which is one of my grandmother's great nieces, and to include her husband, her niece's husband, my cousin's husband, were staying here too, and his trailer burned down. The trailer, as far as I understand it, here back to another video. Right now I'm standing on my mother's property. Came out here to look around, do some cleaning up. You see I got already bags of trash where people have litter on our property. So I'm cleaning it up. Also I'm putting up her property signs as well as spray painting the trees with purple paint as to basically give notice that people cannot trespass on the property. According to my research, using purple paint in the trees is another avenue you could take to protect your property by identifying that this is your personal property, so people don't have to trespass on your property. As well as, put up signs too. But you can do both. You can use purple paint on the trees or any kind of markings, or personal property signs or no trespassing signs. In 2018, might be in 2019, came out here with a surveyor and had my mother's property surveyed. It cost me about $500 on me. It cost me about $500, but you can see, you can see that. Follow me. So right now, I'm pretty much standing on air property. If you want to follow my other videos, some other videos you know what I'm talking about, that we have the air property. But I'll step here, I'm on my mother's property. So basically a hop, scoot, and jump. Air property, my mother's property. So at one point in time, her land was actually part of the air property. She purchased her property from her grandfather, actually her great-grandfather, which is my great-great-grandfather, Papa Sim, my grandmother's grandfather. Purchased property from him in the 1970s. So she had this property a few years before I was born. But her property basically borders the air property which I'm standing on now. So I had the surveyors come out and basically identify her border of the property. You can see on the trees. See on the trees there that they put up this orange tape and they marked the trees as it's being, this tree being on the border of the air property and this tree being the border of my mother's property, and it goes back some ways there around her property. So again, this is other things that you can do to preserve and protect your property. Basically, know where your property ends and begins, especially if it borders up against other property, other person's property, and in my case, air property. One of the reasons why I had my mother's property surveyed and marked for the border was that I also discovered that her brother who my mother and I had to take legal action against because he was encroaching and trespassing on her property. He was building past the border, his property border, onto her property. So therefore I had to intervene. Because at that point, the property was in my name, the quitclaim deed from my mother to me to take care of her property, make sure that the taxes are paid, her property is being managed. Again, she had this property since right before I was a baby, before I was born. In the 1970s, she bought this property from her great-grandfather. You can see the markers on the trees identifying the borders. Again, this is the heir property. Actually, this is someone else's property. The property I'm saying on now belongs to somebody else. I think it belongs to one of our cousins. But this is my mother's property based on the markings there and the tree. That belongs to somebody else right there. But this property I'm saying on right now is my mother's property. There's another marking there, a stake. But anyway, so I had to sue. We had to sue her brother because he was encroaching on her property. He was building over. He built over the property line, knowing that it was her property because she had it surveyed, right? To identify his property line and her property line. But what's crazy about this is that she's the one that sold him the property. Before it's his property, before she sold it to him, it was her property. But yet for some reason, he was encroaching on her property. So they share a property border, right? Her brother is basically her neighbor. If she chooses to, build a house on this property, whatever, which I doubt she will do. But regardless of the fact, regardless of that point, he was encroaching on her property. And so had to take legal action to stop that, to identify that he's encroaching on her property, he's trespassing on her property, and for him to stop, cease and desist. I mean, he did go to court, take legal action against him. As you can see, that's the property right there, and there was he was encroaching on the property. Had to put markings up there, identify the property, borders. Actually, this is something I got to take care of. I got to knock down that tree there. I want to take down this tree because as part of his response to the complaint against him that I filed against him, that he claimed that that tree and its branches were causing damage to his shed. Now again, his shed was on our property, on my mother's property. But he made it a point to say that the tree and its branches were hanging over and causing damage to his shed. So I think he had come on here and cut down the branches. You can see that there's branches there. I don't know where those branches came from, but I'm thinking it's from the tree. And there's branches right there. It looks like they were cut down too. I could be wrong, but that's my take on things. So that's why I come out here to check out my mother's property, to make sure everything is good, that he's not encroaching on our property, that people, that are throwing trash on the property, try to clean it up, try to keep it clean. I did have a camera out here. Actually, I still have it out here, but the Mother Nature has taken over it. Ants and spiders and other insects have made it their home, so it has stopped working. But I may get another camera out here, a trail cam of some sort, to try to capture who was littering on my mother's property, throwing trash on the property, in case anybody's trespassing. So I finished getting most of the trash on the property. So what I want to do now is show you one more thing before I get out of here. Look around again for any more trash and mark the trees, but stay tuned. There's one more thing I want to show you. All right, here's the one thing I wanted to show you. So as you know, my mother property borders the heir property, which at one point in time, her property was sold to her by her grandfather, or great-grandfather, that is, Papa Simon Cox, who was one of the children of Toby Cox. Anyways, so when I first got involved in the air property legal dispute, who's heirs, who's not heirs, and the lawsuit dealing with members of my family being sued for their conversion conspiracy, right? And in turn, I, as well as me, my mother, and her family members, her mother, my grandmother, sued individuals that sued my family members over the management of the property, over the ownership of the property, all that and holding on yards, right? So during the legal action, right, this trailer burned down, and one of my cousins were staying in it, right, which is one of my grandmother's great nieces, and to include her husband, her niece's husband, my cousin's husband, was staying here too, and his trailer burned down. The trailer, as far as I understand it, was one of the trailers owned by my Aunt Melissy, my great-grand Aunt Melissy, my grandmother's sister, one of her sisters. So this was an old trailer, and it burned down. I think it burned down in 2017, 2018 time frame, I can't recall. But one of the defendants who I sued, in turn, was suing my family members as a plaintiff in 2011, accused me and my uncle of fighting with a cousin that was staying here in my Aunt Melissa's trailer, and that we burned it down. You know, and so that was one of the issues that I had to deal with going through the courts. And now that we're still involved in a lawsuit, he is denying it. They're denying that ever saying it. They're denying it that they're involved in this, and it's just a really, you know, unfortunate situation, but a hot mess. But yeah, this is what they said that I did. They accused me of fighting with my cousin and burning down this trailer that was owned by my grandmother's sister, my Aunt Melissy, all right? And that the cousins that were staying here, that we fought with them and they burnt their trailer up, which is a lie. So that's all I want to show you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in another video. Take care. Peace.